Hey everyone, Mike Miller, Herald Times, joined by columnist Jeremy Price, as always, back again, season opener at Assembly Hall. This one went a lot better than the last one did.
Yes, much better than 1 year ago, for sure. I'm far different opponents, but still, I think good for Indiana to start on the right foot and sort of set a more positive tone for this season. Last year, as I said in my column, they sort of inadvertently set a negative tone for
Yeah,
the year that actually turned out to be fairly accurate.
104-55 over Chicago State, which it was certainly one of the lowest rated teams coming into the season in Division One basketball. It's just a team that tough place to win, has a lot of obstacles, a coach that wasn't hired until the middle of August. Your classic November matchup for Big Ten opponents. Actually, it's funny. Archie Miller was talking about the Big Ten. I think the ACC in the future is actually looking at doing ACC games to open up the schedule.
Hmm.
But he was saying the Big Ten, that could be a discussion in the future years to actually open up Big Ten games as the Big Ten continues to do things that doesn't.
What an absolutely awful idea.
I don't like
Just,
it at all.
just my original,
Actually,
original
these games are
reaction.
fine. These games are fine. I mean, obviously, I don't think Chicago State is maybe the opponent you necessarily should be scheduling, but we could do a whole scheduling scoop talk.
Yeah.
Either way, it was a chance to get off on the right foot after last year. It certainly did not go that way, but really a chance to, again, continue the experimentation that we've seen throughout the preseason, or at least the last week of the exhibition slate, mixing and matching lineups as Indiana continues to get healthy and work a lot of new faces onto the floor at one time.
Yeah, and it continues to be a work in progress because it seems like every game right now, this team's shuttling different people that are healthy, not healthy, in and out. So you're working with a lot of different combinations, and that can actually be a good thing. And obviously, it's a much better thing to do against a Chicago State and on Friday a Montana State than against some of the better opponents coming up, starting next week with Marquette, obviously. You want to have a little more continuity. You want to have a little more of your best guys available to you when those games come around. But right now, you've got a chance to play around with some lineups, look at some different things, and we saw a little bit of that tonight. Whether it was the backcourt duo of Finney and Devontae Green playing together tonight, and frequently they were playing together with Evan Fitzner and Deron Davis, which is sort of an interesting
Yeah.
front court pairing. So a lot of interesting combinations, but things to see what works, what doesn't work. Who knows?
Yeah, it was your standard fare coming out of the gate with the lineup. I think maybe not a point guard, but the lineup you kind of expected to see. Although really the way Rob Finney's come on and really given his skill set and projection as a player, not at all surprising to see him actually seize those minutes, even with Devontae Green being injured. But again, we can get into Romeo, of course, but this was yet another really impressive showing from Rob Finney, who continues to, I tweeted during the game, a guy who you thought was going to be Indiana's point guard of the future. Well, the future definitely appears to be now, no matter if it's Chicago State or not. I mean, the offense just flows. He's a guy who understands what's expected of him with the ball. He doesn't try to do too much. It's just a steady hand on the offense. And whether it was crafty passing, whether it was just, again, being able to make the right play at the right time, he's a guy who really looks the part of a real true point guard that Indiana could really benefit from.
Now, Finney picked up 2 early fouls tonight.
Mm-hmm.
Not something you want to see going forward. And if that's a trend that continues, then maybe that takes away from the idea of putting him in as a starter. I actually like the idea of him as a starter for a multitude of reasons. First of all the things you said and the stability he brings at the point guard position. But also I like bringing Devontae Green off the bench. You want somebody that's going to give you a little energy, a little juice off the bench, and Devontae Green can certainly do that. And in the end, I think you're going to see them both play very similar minutes, maybe even split minutes in terms of total minutes, although they'll be playing together at times. Obviously, the backcourt situation is still a little up in the air with Al Durham out tonight, not playing, and how's he fit into that rotation, because obviously he's going to slot in there. But if you looked at the minutes guys played tonight, now obviously a blowout kind of situation, but you aren't looking at anybody that's playing an enormous amount of minutes. You're mostly looking at guys in the 20, 22, 24 minute type category. And if you could ideally keep that up when you add to the rotation with a Durham, with a Jerome Hunter, even a Race Thompson in the front court in the future, then I think the defense will improve from that standpoint alone, because I think the defense was probably the thing Archie Miller was the least happy with in this game tonight. And it was something that, outside of the second half of the exhibition game against Loyola, obviously it was very good. The first half of the exhibition game, it was very good. Tonight it was sort of good in almost 2 and 3 possession stretches was about as far as it went.
It was extremely November defense, I guess you could say,
Yeah.
probably for the first week of the season. It's probably not altogether off course of what you might expect from a team, but there were definitely some good moments, and even Devontae Green was right there, had some really nice defense. I can't remember if it was right at the end of the first half or early second half. Some real tight defense led to some easy transition points for Romeo Langford, who, by the way, was pretty much as advertised. Just as a scorer, scored 17 points in the first half, 16 over the final 9+ minutes. But really, it was the first part of the first half where you're kind of looking at Romeo as a guy who the offense can just flow through. Just having his mere presence on the floor, he was a guy who was at times looking to pass first. He created for other guys just with his natural ability to drive and draw attention in the lane. But I think as much as this team's going to need him to score, and it certainly will, I think it also is going to need him to put others in good positions, and it seemed like he really did that in bunches early on.
Yeah, I think that what you saw from Romeo tonight is what he brings to the table. Is he's just a guy that can attack, and when he attacks, good things happen, whether it's for himself or for his teammates. And we talk a lot about Rob Finney not looking like a freshman in terms of his poise. I think you could say the same thing for Romeo in terms of his willingness to attack. Sometimes freshmen come in and they're not sure if they should be aggressive or shouldn't be aggressive, and should I try to force this here? Romeo doesn't second guess himself at all. He's a guy that's very confident. He knows what he can do. He knows what he's capable of, and he's willing to push the issue. And obviously we'll see how those things turn out as the level of opponent turns up for Indiana. But obviously in the early going here, he's got that mentality that really was kind of the one thing this team was missing from a perimeter-type player. Obviously, Juwan Morgan would have that at times last year, but a lot of times he had it playing the 5 and, being basically a 3.5 to 4 playing against a 5-man, and so he could put that to use. Now it's a little different situation. He's not in that situation this year, and obviously Romeo can do the attacking, and so far to this point, both through the exhibition game and this opener, Juwan seems sort of content to sort of pick his moments, find his spots, do his thing when the time's right, but he's not really forcing the issue so far. And in a lot of ways, he's letting Romeo Langford and Robert Finney sort of find their way as freshmen before he asserts himself. And so it will help the overall meshing of this team together in the long run, I think.
You know what was really bad tonight?
What was really bad tonight?
Free throw shooting.
Yeah, free throw shooting.
We've said that before, though. It was really bad.
What was mostly Romeo's fault.
Well, it was mostly Romeo's fault, and that's got to change for a guy who if you're going to attack the way he does, he's going to get to the line a lot this year. But first of all, I'm struggling. We were talking about this in the press room. New box scores this year. There's a new box score format the NCAA is going with. It's really hard to read.
Figure out your graph paper or something.
Rumor has it, IU's coaching staff is not a fan at all, and they use the old version somehow. So, but yeah, I'm looking 57% at the line tonight. 19 of 33. Romeo was 5 of 11, and yeah, he was the one who was kind of driving that number down a little bit. Not off to a good start, but it does seem that this team does have better shooters, and you certainly think that a guy like Romeo who can shoot the ball, it's not maybe the first. When you list his strengths offensively, shooting is probably not the number one, but it's up there. And you'd think that both he and guys like Evan Fitz are guys who can get to the line and draw fouls. That number might come up as you get into the season a little further.
Well, we were talking a little bit about this on the higher up press row during the game tonight. Romeo's a guy that really shot free throws really well up until the latter part of last year as a senior in high school. And it seemed that a lot of that corresponded with that wrist injury that he developed during last year. And so you kind of wonder if whatever was going on with that wrist, I don't know if there's any lingering effects to that or not, but it just kind of thrown off the rhythm or the release a little bit on his shot on those things. And maybe that's affected a little bit of his three-point shooting as well. Seems like he's a much better shooter off the dribble on the move than he is, spotting up at this point. And obviously free throws, you're talking about a spot-up situation again. So I think it's just a matter of him finding a comfort level. He might want to tweak something in terms of his release or his footwork, or maybe he wants to scoot back a little bit further. But most of the time when he misses, he's hitting that front of the rim and missing those shots for the most part. When he puts a little bit more arc on the ball, gets underneath it, it looks pretty good. So I think that's something that he can kind of solve as the season goes along. And it's something that if he continues to get to the line at the rate he's getting to the line, I think it'll sort of work itself out. Obviously I'm sure he's shooting tons of free throws in practice, but the more you do it in a game under fatigue type situations, I think the better you'll get at it, the more you'll start to find a rhythm, especially here on his home floor. He'll start to sort of feel this gym a little bit more, and I think that'll iron itself out. On the road's a different matter. Obviously, IU needs to figure that out before things get
soon
important.
Too. Yeah. Trying to think what else we should wrap up with here tonight. I don't know if we mentioned Evan Fitzner, but really nice debut for him. Not only just production-wise, just having that kind of presence on the floor. Obviously, a undersized Chicago State team, but his size and length, you think, could help maybe a little bit more than anticipated, just with his ability to rebound and be a little bit more than a shooter.
Yeah, and I mean, he's going to do the shooting once in a while, but I'm not sure that maybe we haven't made a little too much of the shooting from that standpoint. Just he's going to get his looks, a couple of looks a game, and if he can knock one or two of those down, then great. But what you're really impressed with is he seems to understand the game, where to be. He's efficient with his opportunities. If you give him a good look, he's going to, one, catch the ball, two, he's going to finish the play. He did a good job tonight against a team that obviously, like you said, had inferior size, but he would catch the ball. He kept it high where they couldn't do anything about it and just drop it right in. And you watch him play and you think, man, this guy really couldn't see that much more of the floor for St. Mary's, really. Sort of scratch your head a little bit, but he definitely brings something to the table for this team. And maybe not every night he's going to score 12, 13, 14 points, but he's capable of it, and he's able to do it in a sneaky way. Obviously he looked good tonight, but very under the radar compared to a Romeo Langford or whatever. So you just get those steady contributions. I think that's all Indiana can ask for Evan Fitzner this season.
Yep. I think that'll do it.
Yeah. Let's do it again on Friday.
First time Indiana actually scored 100 points since the triple overtime game against Penn State back in February of 2017. So it had been a while since we'd seen this kind of offensive explosion from an IU team. But again, Chicago State, probably a good team to open up with. That's about all you can really say about Chicago State, frankly. But yeah, it'll get interesting from here. You got Montana State on Friday, followed by Marquette. A week from today?
I think so, yes.
Next Tuesday?
I believe so, yeah.
So, yeah, interesting November slate. We'll pick up pretty quickly, and we'll get to know this team a little bit more in depth here in the coming days. So stay tuned. Anyway, thanks for watching, guys.